I felt that. Okay, let's start with where did your love for Regency and the Bridgerton style storytelling come from? Was it something you discovered before earning your degree in history and creative writing, or did your studies deepen that passion?
Um, it was a combination. It's my love of history in general started um early in school. It
Mm-hmm.
was one of those things where it was the first subject where I knew I was good at it. And
Mm.
when you grew up with perfectionist parents from the Caribbean, like you being, it was a subject where I knew I could get an A. And so it was that in like English, and I was like, okay, so it's fine with English, but like math was really tricky for me, science was really tricky for me,
Mm-hmm.
and then history was another one of the subjects where we were like, oh Jesus, like can I do this?
Mm-hmm.
And there was like one random question with it was like a weird sort of time chart
Mm-hmm.
thing, and I was the only person in the class to get the answer right.
Oh wow.
And it was one of those things where like I raised my hand and then looked around and realized that nobody else had raised their hand.
Oh.
And I was just like, am I brilliant? Is this what I need to do for the rest of my life? And like and straight up from like that moment on, and like my teacher made it very like interesting and stuff. But from that moment on I was like, I think I love history.
Yeah.
So I decided to go with that. And as I grew up, it was one of the subjects that just sort of stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it came into romance, or getting into reading romance and historical romance, it was it was one of the it was just around a lot. And I mean, like I didn't like I had a cousin who read it, but she read like contemporary and she read historical. So I got in there. I started with like Nora Roberts, and then I was just waiting for my mom at her office, and like in the what is it called, in the cafeteria, they
Mm-hmm.
had, like the little break room, they had like this stack of like books for like people to read. And one of them was from Bridgerton, was the Bridgerton series. It was the second book in the Bridgerton series. It was Benedict and Sophie. And I had no idea. I had no idea who Julia Quinn was. But I was bored. And, I got out of school at around like 2, and my mom wasn't getting off work until 6. So I was like, I'm about to sit here and read this book. And from that moment on, I was like, okay, what are the other books? And I was lucky because this was in high school, so I was lucky that my parents were not really paying attention to what I was reading. Because if my mom looked at this and said, "Friend, you were 17 years old. What the hell are you doing reading these books?" Yeah, she wasn't tracking this. So they were letting me, they would just let me go free at like Barnes and Nobles, and I was like, oh, so I'm just gonna check out all of these books by Julia Quinn and read all of them as they come out. And it was very entertaining. It was very fun. I liked like the Sunni part. I liked the and just as a aesthetic,
Mm-hmm.
everybody wants like the big swooshy skirts. If you started off with Disney princesses, like at some point you're making the transition to historical romantic something. And then when you realize that the romance is your favorite part,
Yeah.
then you find a whole genre that's like dedicated to your favorite part of
Yeah.
like any kind of story. You're like, yeah, well, this is it. We're here. So
Oh.
that's kind of like how it came in there. It was very sort of gradual, very organic sort of thing where I was
Yeah.
just like, wait, you mean it's like a whole world of this? I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you sat down to write within this era, what made you decide this is the time period where my characters deserve their love stories?
I think it's one of those things where it was the first thing I had to figure out is, I mean, first of all, it was where. But
Mm-hmm.
Victorian was also one of, like in like One Season with the Duke, and for example, is very early Victorian, so it's like the tail end of it's like it's like a little after Regency.
Mm-hmm.
But when they market it, they market anything that's like after Regency. They
Mm-hmm.
just market it as Victorian. Yeah, they just market it as Regency. They don't care whether it's Regency or Victorian. So mine is Victorian, but I liked it because I liked the. I knew that the Regency in particular was kind of oversaturated, but I was familiar enough with Regency and Victorian in particular because I liked from an actual historical perspective. I found the Victorian era to be one that had some of the most change, like actual social, technological,
Yeah.
like change within a society.
Yes.
With Regency, it's sort of more social, the
Mm-hmm.
change, but with in Victorian, you get the full gambit. So, like if you think about it, from the beginning of you start the Victorian era
Mm-hmm.
with like you have like your poofy skirts and you have all that stuff, and that's fantastic. But by the end of it, you have electricity, you
Mm-hmm.
have trains, you have all this kind of stuff, and people are just like, what? And you go from like carriages where you have to, it takes your horse can only go 30 miles a day,
Yeah.
period,
Yeah.
to a train and
Yeah.
like automobiles and like all this kinds of stuff, and you're just like, what is going on? So like in that one era, the span
Yeah.
of the span of time that you're covering and the kind of change that's happening, just I mean, you also have Charles Darwin. Like you go from
Mm-hmm.
like the understanding of science, like the understanding of the human body, like all these things are happening in this one time period. So I've always found it really fascinating. I've also found it also is the time because I knew I wanted to do a lot of interracial. It's also the height of the time where the British Empire is really like causing problems for pretty much everybody, like like all over the damn place. So like, because like England takes a while to establish like an empire, like the kind of empire that we associate with England. I mean, like in the Regency and previously, like it's not like they're not like checking stuff out, but they're not officially like causing drama. Like they haven't fully started like the full on colonialism that's going on in those times. You
Mm-hmm.
have like trade established and you're doing your stuff, but it's not as bad. But in the Victorian time, like okay, right now everybody has to come to
Mm-hmm.
London. Everybody has to show up. Everybody ends up showing up there. That's when you get to the point where like all roads go through London because they're making it. They're forcing everybody to do it. So
Yeah.
you have everybody in London and in England at that during the Victorian era, with the exception of if you outside of like certain countries like Korea, who was just like nobody can come here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so you don't have Koreans there, but you have Chinese there. You have South Asians there because again England's been there messing about for a
Mm-hmm.
while. By the late Victorian era, you have like the beginning of the British Raj. You have like this kind of stuff where they actually have taken over everything and straight up
But
stolen the country.
but see, I don't even consider you interracial. I consider you multicultural
I mean,
because
yeah.
the reason why I say that is because the first book is she's biracial. The
Mhm.
second book she is Blasian. The third book she's South Asian and black, right?
So in the second book with
Or
like
she's
Miss
Chinese
Fortune
and black.
Daring Barkin, she's her father's white and her mother's Chinese.
But see, that's multicultural though.
Yeah, it's multicultural, but like to me, I guess like I was when I think of, but that always comes into one of those interesting
Hmm.
conversations of like how do you determine multicultural versus,
Yeah.
um, versus like interracial. So to me, if you're looking at a person who generally by and large is like half Chinese and half white, if they look Chinese, people are gonna be like, okay, they're Chinese, right?
Hmm.
So a lot of it is like what based on like how you're perceived and the way I saw Ada and her brother, they are moving through the world as Chinese people in
Hmm.
in England. And so and like Hetty, for example. Yeah, she's biracial. That's perfectly true. But she moves through England as a black woman. Like nobody really like she has the protection of her white family, but she's a black person,
Yeah.
right? And she's not really given a hell of a lot of slack just because, just
Yeah.
because she has like a white daddy. They're like, yeah, but who your mama look like? Like that's
Right.
a
Right.
lot of real, right? They're like,
Right.
we know you're not right. So it's kind of one of those things.
Mm.
And with Regina, who is South Asian, yeah, but she's a dark skinned South Asian chick. So she's moving through the world as a South Asian woman. Like that is what she looks like, right? So
Okay.
that's where, so I mean, that was how I was writing it because in my head, that's how the characters were moving. But whether it's interracial or multicultural, I'm just like, girl, like either way.
I no. The reason why I say that because a lot of people will be like they have problems with interracial romance,
Right,
but they don't understand. Sometimes the books that they're calling interracial are multicultural.
right, yeah,
So I just wanted to clarify that because a lot of times you people, you readers,
yeah,
us, we wind up saying something is interracial and it's really multicultural. You
yeah.
gotta know the difference. Interracial is more black and white. That's interracial.
Okay,
Multicultural is when you're mixing other cultures together as a romance. That's multicultural.
okay.
So that's the difference between the two. So stop calling everything interracial because not everything's interracial. Yeah, it just ain't. All right. So your books, they're diverse. They're very diverse. And why was it important to you to center black diversity, different ethnicities,
Mhm.
uh, into a Regency historical romance?
So the interracial, like that level of, or that level of multicultural,
Mm-hmm.
that is a direct result of my upbringing. So I was raised, the accent is from Trinidad and Tobago.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to get on a plane heading to Trinidad and Tobago to realize that there has been a lot of mixing going on in
Mm-hmm.
that island, right? You get there and you literally see every culture, every race, every ethnicity mixing.
Mm-hmm.
That I mean, it's a small island, and England was there, and everywhere they conquered, they brought people to that one island.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so we have a very large Chinese population, we have a large Korean population, we have a large South Asian population, both Hindu and Muslim. We have black people, we have our originals, we have, our original what do they call? Like our Native Americans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Lebanese, we have Syrian, we have French, we have everything over there. Spanish, we have everything in there. So the couples that I grew up seeing,
Mm-hmm.
that multiracial, multi-ethnic kind of those kind of couples, those kind of love stories, those are the ones that I saw literally everywhere. That was just commonplace.
Mm-hmm.
So it became very, when I'm watching like media or reading books,
Mm-hmm.
I found it, and maybe it was because I just didn't understand
Mm-hmm.
that, because now that you're like, based on your explanation, it's like that's probably why when they were saying like, oh, it's just really diverse, and I'm just like, no offense, but just black and white is not diverse. Like you need others. There are others out there. Go
Yeah.
for it, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I was just like, can we get some actually diverse
Yeah.
romance out here? Like it was just wild to me. So that was part of what I wanted to do. I was like, I'm gonna make sure these people understand. And the reality of it is, if you're talking about the reality of it is like when it comes to love and those kinds of things, it's about proximity. It's about who's near you for you to have the most contact with, right? A lot of times. You're not gonna it's very difficult for you to fall in love with somebody that you don't know, that you've never met, that you've never seen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when the reality of it is, if you're thinking about a white supremacist society, 9 times out of 10, people who are not white are finding each other. They're going to be the ones sitting down next to each other because they're just like, these people don't like us. Like they're the ones who are going to be on the fringes of the ballroom. When you're talking about where you live, If you're not all, landed gentry, which is what I write about, but if you're not, if you're talking about like where people can afford, 9 times out of 10, you're living in these same areas. They're going to be poor white people there too, but that's where you are. You're all in a similar space. And because of that, yeah, the idea that they wouldn't have love stories across when the person lives across the street from you,
Yeah.
like that doesn't make any sense. You form these integrated communities. So to me, I was like, this is Victorian England. Like everybody's there, but not everybody could afford to live in Mayfair with the Bridgertons, right? So if that's but you also have this weird situation in England where race is very socially, it's kind of very strictly enforced, but legislatively, not really.
Yeah.
So you have instances like, for example, like a good example is like Trinidad's first president, right? This is colonial England. This is colonial Trinidad, right? Those suckers still owned us, but because his mother worked for a family that could afford to send him to school, he was able to get higher education, and that was it. The barrier was money. Now, socially, like money, like that can affect your ability to have access to that money, right? But if you had somebody who was going to pay for you to go to school, there was no legal barrier to you going to school. So you have they did like England didn't enforce it that way, not legally. Socially was different, and one could argue that, I mean, like, which is why like racism in England is really slippery, because there's no like legal code saying you can't go here because you look a certain way. It's just, can you afford to live here? And chances are you can't, right? But what if you can? Because in a lot of instances in England they could. It depended, right? You had rich people from India who moved to England. You had like these things happen, right? So when that's happening, I'm like, okay, so what if they're all hanging out though? Like, what if you're England? If you're English, if you're born there, and your parents could be from all over, where are these schools? Everybody wants to give their children the best opportunities, right? So what school can you afford to go? If you can afford to send your kid to Oxford, you're sending them to Oxford. When you send your kid to Oxford, what happens? What are the connections that they can make now?
Yeah.
Paths that are now open up to them, like all these kinds of things. And so you end up having this kind of social mobility that, gave the ton anxiety. But I don't care about the ton's anxiety. So I'm like, I'm going to give you I'm like, let's make you really anxious. Let's put everybody in there.
So, but you in your stories, you have steamy, lots of steamy, but you also have conflict and social tension. How do you strike the balance, keeping romance passionate and sensual without letting the conflict, suffocate the love story?
I suppose, to me, the way I write it, I include the sort of racial tension in the general, like when you have two people coming together, regardless of their race, there are things that they have to come over. They have to come over different perspectives. They have to overcome a lot of things. These are two separate entities that are trying to merge. And I'm like, okay, well, race is just going to be one of those things. It's a lot, and maybe I take a shortcut, because if I was writing in America, there's going to be more. It's going to be harder to overcome those differences, because you have a legal code that is separating people, that's penalizing people, that's making it legally impossible, right? So it is going to be harder to, like, the reality of the situation moving in America, trying to write those kinds of stories, depending on the state that you're in. Like, I'd have to be real specific about the state. I have to be very specific about the time period, because, like, shit got hairy, right? However, if you're talking about England, where you don't have a legal code, it literally it makes the tension purely social. And
Mm.
so it's something that you actually can escape in
Hmm.
your household, right? You can go home, and when you want to fuck your husband, like, you can just do that
Yeah.
because there's nobody coming for you. There's not the fear or the anxiety or the level of stuff that you have to deal with. It's still there, but it's not on the same level.
Hmm.
And so I guess, or at least that's how I interpret it. I could be wrong, but that's how I interpret it.
Hmm.
So that makes it, when you don't have that awareness, when you don't have that level of fear in the back, it makes it just, I guess, because the characters don't have that, it just makes it a lot easier to just have it be integrated in a way that's similar to, say, if you're talking about class difference, right?
Mm.
It just doesn't have to get, it doesn't need to be that prevalent, because in the social structure it exists. It's
Mm.
a real thing, but it is not actually as it's not as prohibitive as it is in America. So
Mm.
that could be it.
So, hmm. So you like making new recipes, right?
I do.
So, if one of your favorite books you've written were a recipe, what would it be and why?
Oh shit. So okay, I have a clarifying question. So if we talking about just one meal,
Just
like a
one meal. Just one
okay.
meal.
Um. Okay. So I would say, damn. Now I'm thinking. Okay. So again, we're gonna have to go back to Trinidad for this. So like, as a meal, I'm thinking, like, so we have curry stew chicken
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah, that
Trinidad.
sounds good as hell.
It is damn good. But the combination, like the way the ingredients come together, or even like curry, like Trinidad cuisine, like that kind of curry, it's one of the things where, like, you see the echoes of things, but you can definitely tell, like, this is not the original. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is not the original. The
Yeah.
flavor profile is completely different, but it's so damn good. But somebody else was here. So to me, like a curry stew chicken with like peas and rice or something like that, you have a little bit of like that. You have like the African, you have like a little bit of a Creole situation going on here. You have the stew chicken, if like you have to like burn sugar, things like that. Like that's a Creole thing. That's not really a South Asian thing, but you do have the curry in there, and that's the South Asian. And then you have like the green seasoning that we use, which is like the Amerindian in there. So like all of it coming together, like, that's my books.
Okay.
Just a weird combination to make some damn good chicken. That's what we're talking about here.
So let's talk about One Season with a Dude.
Hmm.
Is layered with themes of fighting for love, finding true happily ever after. Henrietta,
Hmm.
she is not defined by racism. She's not defined by really much anything, but rather her deep worthiness of love. Like, she is just intentional with that. So, how intentional was that choice in shaping her journey?
Which choice? The choice to not make race a central.
Both.
Um, okay.
Both.
Um, so when I was Hetty was like unique to the other characters that I like, the trilogy that I just wrote,
Mm-hmm.
because when I was writing Hetty, she's a person who's aware of she's existing in a very strange time. Like, slavery's already gone, right? So the concept of slave, like, and slavery is not a thing in England anymore, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
it. So this is Even in the colonies, slavery's already gone.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have, and she's being raised by an in a white family that has extreme privilege. Like
Mm-hmm.
her uncle is a marquis. That's like one step below a duke. So, and she's raised with a lot of love. She's
Mm-hmm.
raised with a lot of, so like I think when I was writing her, I think it's one of those things where it's like if it's not in your face and you are not and your race is not the thing that's you're aware that it makes you different. You're
Mm-hmm.
aware that it sets you apart. But you've never actually had to experience truly negative side effects because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've been protected by this, both by the love of the family that has you, but also the position that it's afforded you.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing, when you're raised, I think, especially if the circles that you're moving in, like, it's not an issue, like, the people that you're interacting with, it's not something that they've pushed in your face. It isn't something that's necessarily central to how you move in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was one of those things like in Trinidad, it was not something that I thought about at all. Because not just because it was because everybody was so mixed. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't something that was it's not like there isn't like colorism and all the rest of that stuff, right? But it was just something that just wasn't a thing. There was nothing that was prohibited to me. I
Mm-hmm.
saw myself everywhere. I saw everybody everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So when I moved to the US, that was something that I had to learn to be aware of. I had to
Mm-hmm.
learn to be aware of the fact that it's like there are people who are going to treat you differently, A, because you're black, and then people are going to treat you differently to your other black friends because I'm not as dark as them, and also my accent sounds more British, so I sound a little more like tame. I sound like the tame black person, like the
Mm-hmm.
one that the British got to first. So I'm like the safer one, like kind of thing. Like a lot of that I had to sort of like figure out on the fly because there was no one to explain it to me
Mm-hmm.
because my entire family was from Trinidad, so they weren't noticing it either.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing. So that was kind of what I wanted to bring to Hetty, where it's like you're aware that you're different. You know that in certain areas you're going to stand out a little more, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, it's not something that weighs on you as heavily as the fact that your parents left you so early that you don't
Mm-hmm.
remember them.
Mm-hmm.
And you find out that, and then you realize that your mother had the option of staying. They were here. You were born here. They could have stayed with you, but they leave, and they leave
Mm-hmm.
you, and they never come back, ever. Like, she's like 20, like 21, 22 in the book. So it's 22 years of people who absolutely could have come back. They could have, or at least her mother could have. Anybody, but they didn't. They just
Mm-hmm.
were like, "Oh, she's fine. She's being raised by her rich uncle. Like, it's not an issue," and it wasn't. But it's that kind of thing. And the way
Mm-hmm.
I imagined her, it was going to be one of those things of like that was probably going to weigh heavier on her because that is something that is ever present. It's always in her life. Her
Mm-hmm.
parents are missing. Her parents left. And then to find out that her parents died before they could come back. So she's like, okay, so they're never going to be in my life. There's never going to be a point in my life
Mm-hmm.
where I know my mother. I know what they sound like. None of that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that was going to be more important. And that was going to affect her self worth, that feeling of being sort of abandoned and left alone, rather than her being a black woman in England, despite the fact that she's aware of the fact that she's a black woman in England.
Yeah. The family dynamic with her cousin and her cousin and
And then the other
Fitty.
cousin, yeah.
Ugh.
Two very different cousins. Yeah.
And Finn, the Scotsman who becomes her partner, but was like her bestie, it kind of gives this tenderness and complexity. Like, how do you write romance and sensuality that feels fluid and authentic instead of stiff and formulated?
Um, I think because when I'm those characters had been in my head for a very long time before
Mm,
I was able to commit them to a page.
mm,
And to me, I guess like when I'm writing the characters, I'm sort of feeling them at the same time.
mm-hmm.
So when I'm writing, it's like I'm channeling them. So
Yeah.
instead of me trying to um and I don't know, I've never tried to write any other way, so I don't know. But I because a lot of people approach writing from different angles, right? There's some people who they're very not formulaic in how they approach the characters, but they have like beats. They have they have like a formal structure that that they got from that, and like that's how they do it, and that's how they approach it, and that's how they set things up. Whereas me, I do set up my structure. I do need it, but I kind of run on vibes. So when I'm writing it, it's sort of, does this feel correct? And
Mm,
that's how I move a lot of stuff. So if I'm writing a scene and I have to find a way for it to feel, and I feel correct. And for me, the correctness is, does it feel authentic? Does it feel like
mm.
something that they would be doing? And that mostly just comes from knowing my characters. I
Yeah.
know, although some readers would disagree, to me, there is not one thing that Finn does that is out of character for him. It is something that somebody else may not be aware he
Yeah.
is capable of, but not one thing he does is out of character.
I'm not gonna hold you, even though he had blew up and all that
He
shit.
did, yeah.
I still wanted to fuck him. I was just like,
Yeah.
God damn.
You're
I
like, you know what? I'm watching you, but we'll discuss it, you know?
I was just like, oh, I still like him.
Yeah, because to me, and like that, and to me, that was also because I think for me, I knew, and especially when I knew, if I know what their relationship is, right? I know
Mm,
that they're best friends. So they're already starting from an area of trust. There's mutual trust, right?
mm-hmm.
So Hetty, which I feel like people sort of sometimes like readers can take for granted, I'm like, Hetty knows that Finn will absolutely look out for her all the time.
Absolutely.
And Finn trusts that Hetty will do the same for him
Right.
all the time. Which means that if there's something if she's aware that there's danger, if she's aware that
Hello.
something's wrong, she will be open and frank with him about these things because, like, she wouldn't want to hurt him, right? And she
Mm-hmm.
would understand. She knows the risk, right? And I think, like, that's one of those things where it's like, it becomes, with that book, it was to me, Friends to Lovers is a cheat code, personally. I find Friends to Lovers to be one of the easiest things because there's so much less, it's so much harder
Mm,
to get over the awkwardness
yeah.
of, who is this person? Why are they over here?
Yeah.
Do I like them? And to try to like shoehorning that stuff in. Whereas if it's somebody that you would already know cares for you very deeply in a very authentic way, that they've been, like, you both have had a, not the same experience, but something at least tangentially similar in the sense of both of you have been othered, both of you understand what it's like to be sort of like, yeah, they don't want me here, kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
situation.
But you
It,
also have marriage of convenience in there as well.
I will if I can fit a marriage of convenience into every book, I would do it. I love that trope.
That is a Regency hallmark
Yes.
trope. That right there, the marriage of convenience.
Yeah. Because marriages at that time, again, 9 times out of 10. They were of convenience. Like
Mm,
marriage is a business. Like marriage then was a business, and I still maintain this as a romance author. Marriage is a business arrangement. Like you need to know, like the best marriage partner for you is the best person who can be a good business partner with you, because
mm,
that's what you're setting up. You're talking about combining money. You're talking about two depth like interest. You're trying to build an enterprise that's going to move forward. That's the
mm.
plan.
Yeah.
And if you're dealing with somebody that you cannot be on the same page with about your goals, like I'm like, that's business right there. So to me, a marriage of convenience, I'm like, let's start with the business shit. Are we on the same page? Do we already know where each other's coming from
Yeah.
before we let the emotions get involved? The bare basics. Can we work together?
Mm,
And if you can, it's like, okay, well, let's move it. And if you put friends to lovers in there, it's like, can we work together? Yes. Do
mm,
we care deeply about each other? Yes. Are we both hot as hell? Yes, we are. So let's
mm.
fuck. Like that's easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cheating to me.
Yeah. But it was the aspect of um her struggles with trusting people and believing they had her best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Do you see that as a reflection of the very real way Black women often navigate the world, balancing strength with cautiousness?
Yes. I think also because as black women, there you like to you think that because it's a combination of like old skin folk and kinfolk kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And when you're dealing with a person like in when you're dealing with people who you think you have so much in common with,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's on on a familiar level, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You think you're like, we're from the same clan, yo. Like beyond the fact that we're from the same like ethnic group, like we look the same. We still have the same blood in our
Mm,
veins. Like we are linked on so many levels. The idea that you can be so linked with people and they could still turn on you. They will still cannibalize their own in that way. Is it is rough. And with I think especially with black women and black people moving
mm,
in a white supremacist structure, I
mm-hmm.
think the reality is that, especially when you're talking about, like, we're fighting on two fronts, right? So we're fighting patriarchy, which is, the step cousin of just white supremacy. And then we have to deal with white supremacy and just like,
Yeah,
white
yeah,
people in
yeah.
general, right? And so and it's sometimes it's hard. And I think also not all of course, but I think also I feel like of like most I think social conditioning is real. And I
Mm,
think what happens is sometimes um like for the example of like of Hetty's cousin, this
mm.
idea of the cousin, the this idea of being owed
What was his
things.
name again?
Philip,
Yeah.
yeah, that man, like a cockroach, he would not go away. But like
God.
real, but this real sense of entitlement that he has to her, this
Mm,
entitlement that he has to her money, this entitlement that he has to everything about her, not valuing it, but believing that he should have it because by virtue of instead of thinking I should value it because I should value you, it's more give me my stuff kind of a
mm-hmm.
thing. And I think
Mm,
that is also something that I mean I hesitate to speak in general terms, but I think it is something that black women can resonate with, like it's this
yeah.
feeling of feeling owned, like you literally escape you have to deal with literal slavery where you are literally owned by people, and then you get
Mm-hmm.
out of it, and then you have this person who should have shared this experience of being owned and understand how demoralizing it is to feel like you have become commodified, and then they turn around and be like, yeah, we own you too, like black men own black women, like that concept, and you're just like, y'all for real over here? So like I think it's like one of those things where for her it like that becomes this thing of like who can you trust? Because you
Yep.
know you can't trust this person over here because they don't have your best interest, but then who does have your best interest? And how do you determine it if you can't use those factors, which instinct would tell you you should be able to? How do you determine it? You
Mm,
think you can trust, like she never liked Philip. He was always kind of creepy, but the concept of him doing what he's doing to her, she's just like,
yeah.
really? Like that's it feels like you hate me. Like it feels like I owe you like it feels like I'm your enemy. Like why are you coming for me on this level? And then she turns around and she's looking at this white family where she's like, I should not be able to trust them. If I cannot trust him, I should not be able to trust them. And
Right.
yet she can. And then
Yeah.
she's like, okay. And then she's coming with Finn, and then she's like, you are you gonna be a problem? Like, so, you know, she's like, so far, you're not a problem. But are you a problem? Like, when, like, there's so much at risk for him. There's so much that he's
Yeah.
dealing with. There's so much that he's juggling. And it's like, if I become a liability, what happens?
So, okay. Finn, let's talk about Finn because Finn is a Scotsman,
Yes.
a lord. Um, you written him with this rare vulnerability, and instead of him being portrayed as the typical stiff aristocrat,
Hmm.
what made you lean into his softness more?
I like beta males. I will never, I will never like fight. I will stand 10 toes down on that. To me, emotionally evolved beta males are my thing. That is what makes me hot personally.
Mm,
So I like writing men who, whether they're willing to admit it to others, they know what they are emotionally developed.
mm,
I don't want my heroines to have to do that work
yeah,
for any man. Like I don't care how hot he is. Like like that is not work that they're gonna have to do. They
yeah.
they may still have to like realize something about themselves, but they are already gonna have the tools built into them to take
Mm,
that step, right?
mm,
Without her getting in there. So for Finn, I wanted him to be um kind of a cinnamon roll. Like I really do I wanted him to be something that right, yeah, like sweet and delicious. I
me
wanted
too.
him,
It was a cinnamon roll until he got angry, and then he.
yeah, because this is a thing. So this is a thing that I also wanted with him because I was like, yes, he's a cinnamon roll, but to me, him being a cinnamon roll doesn't mean that he can't have a temper.
Right, he was not a pushover.
No, he is not. Because and the thing is like, which is something that I wanted because to me, even as I was writing Finn, I started off and I was like, he's a cinnamon roll. And then the more I was writing him with his mother, like when they actually get to the Highlands, I was like, this man has been raised for the majority of his life at this point by this woman. What kind
Mm,
of woman is she? And what kind of son would she be trying to raise? And Aoife is not a pushover herself. She
mm,
is terrifying. And she would be wanting her son to be the kind of man who can stand up to anyone, including the invaders. Like, she's expecting the British to come any minute. She's like, absolutely not. So
mm.
she's like, my son is going to be a lord among men. That is the kind of way I want him raised.
Yeah,
It causes problems for them because they're both stubborn.
as hell.
They are like each. So what I to me, I was like, Finn is gonna be on some level his mother, and it is going to cause the most trouble for the two of them. Like when they stand on, like they're just stupidly stubborn. Like they're like, I don't care. I'm not coming over there. You come here, and they'll be
Mm,
shouting from across the room, like, no, you come here. No, you come here. Like they're not. They're very loyal people.
mm-hmm.
They're very they care very deeply about things. Like his mother loves the bones of him. Like she loves
Mm,
that boy. She loves her country, she loves her family, and that can make her very hostile to people who she deems as a threat.
Mm.
Now with Finn, he doesn't necessarily, or for the most of it, he doesn't necessarily deem Hetty to be a threat.
Yeah, yeah.
But when he finds out that this very simple thing that she could have done to help him protect everything, she
Mm-hmm.
does not do on purpose, and he has to force the information out of her. She doesn't even volunteer it. Like,
Yeah.
that is when he's just like, I cannot trust you. And I thought I could. And I put myself at risk because I believed, and all of this at risk because I believed that I could trust you to protect me. And you
Mm.
didn't. And so now he's like, what are you then?
But
Like,
but but on the flip side of that, on the flip
mhm,
side of that,
yep,
you have Philip, who is
yes.
by far gross and disgusting. How do you craft villain arcs? Do they come to you before or after the hero and heroine of your stories?
Ooh. So the concept of him comes as I'm thinking of just the story. So I'm just like, okay, so these two people, normally they come after,
Mhm.
but when I start writing and the magic takes over, that is when the witchcraft takes over. What that is when that's when I start going, okay, so what is what is at his core, what is he? Is he,
Mm.
and for him it's like, I mean all of the villains are different, but at Philip's core, he is a selfish parasite, is what he is,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that is going, and that is how he deals. If there's not a sense, and it's sort of it's. I don't mean not like necessarily fully narcissism, but definitely a level of just like I deserve everything,
Yeah.
and they be out there in these streets all over the place. And
Mm-hmm.
so for him, when I'm like, okay, so that is what he is. He is ultimately, he's selfish,
Mm-hmm.
and he believes that and he's cunning, but he's not very wise. Like a wise man would have backed off when he realized that the Marquis wasn't necessarily coming for his blood fully. Like a wise person would have just used your looks to just bag a heiress and elope with her to Gretna Green. It'd be a scandal, but you could do it. Like, you didn't have to come for your cousin and cause all this drama, right? It is
Mm-hmm.
precisely that sense of entitlement, that parasitic, selfish sort of thing. Like, he could have been a Wickham. He chose not to be, right? Like, so many paths
Yeah, it was a
to
lot.
getting money.
It was a lot of moving parts, but they all came together. I wanted to ask you about Miss Thornfield's daring bargain.
Mm-hmm.
You gave us a exploration into anti-Asian and anti-black racism. How do you handle how do you handle such a heavy theme that really is something nowadays
Mm-hmm.
more so just really prevalent? How do you handle that while maintaining the heart of the romance without going off the rails like, but it's happening now, god damn
Yeah.
it.
Um, I think for I think because the heart of Miss Thornfield, as with all three of the books in that trilogy, the heart of it is this deep, strong friendship that she has. It's love. It's this community that they're able to build. It's that ability to be like, you don't look quite like me, but you and I are in the same damn boat. We are all under attack. And so when you have something like that, you have this, which is opposed to Hetty, right? Like Hetty didn't have that necessarily that community of like friends around her, like friends that would help her kidnap a man to Gretna Green. Like she didn't have that, right?
Yeah.
So now she didn't need it in the end, but she didn't have that. She didn't have friends who would be
Yeah.
like, I don't know this guy. We going together, kind of thing. But Ada does. She also has um it's not extended family that stays with her, and she has this, so it's like when you have this, it's like you end up with a different character when you have that strong familial unit that even though it gets sort of affected by, her parents like die, right? But she's still left with her brother. And her brother, even though he's a brat, is absolutely there. He's not distant. He's not any of this stuff. Like there's a lot of love there for her. So she at her core becomes this character that is very warm, that is full
Mm.
of that, and she's surrounded by this love.
Mm.
And so when you're dealing with the anti-Asian sentiment, right, and you're sort of faced with that, she doesn't have to question her worth. She knows she's dealing with a jackass.
Mm.
Like whether she can fight the jackass is a whole other question. But she knows when she's dealing with one, right? So,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things where it's like when you know and you're centered in your, like, who you are,
Mm-hmm.
like you're like what you deserve and what you don't deserve,
Yeah.
right? And that so I think like that also helps, like it, like when I'm writing her, I'm like I really want to make sure when I was writing her, I wanted to make sure that she was, I didn't want her to be a character that, because this, speaking of the anti-Asian sentiment, especially how people perceive Asian women, I
Mm.
did not want her to come across as this like sort of like docile little doll that's just sort of like there, and she's like tripping everywhere and like dealing with like all this kind of, that she needs somebody to come help her,
Mm.
like, or some to come save her, and it's like no, she needs help to save herself is what she needs. There's certain things that she can navigate on her own, there's certain things that she can make happen, and there's certain things that she needs to delegate that. Like
Yeah.
she can't go sneaking through, down the docks of London to get her brother. Like that doesn't make any damn sense, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but can she come up with a plan to
Mm.
protect herself and her family and be like, this is what I need to do. This is how it needs to happen. This is who I'm, voluntolding into this position so I can get this stuff happen. That is something that she can.
Okay, so in Miss Mason's Secret Baron,
Mm-hmm.
Regina, um, her story involves Indian culture as well as being with a black man.
Mm-hmm.
How do you immerse readers in culture without letting the negativity of oppressive characters like Harrison overwhelm the romance?
I think you need, I think for me, it's very similar to, it's also similar to like what Beverly Jenkins does. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, if you have a character, because most pretty much all of these people are just straight up evil, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like when you're dealing with them, these are very strong personalities, and I feel like, I guess like in my mind when I'm writing them, I'm like, who are these people? Who are the people that this idiot is coming up against?
Mm.
It's like are they, so they need to be strong personalities, and ultimately if you have, I mean, just one on one, it's
Mm-hmm.
a match. But if you put two on one, somebody's gonna get it in the neck, right? And it's probably not gonna be our two lead protagonists, right? So because they're about to team up, and I feel like maybe that, like now that I'm thinking about it, like maybe that is what it is. It's just like when I'm writing, if I'm writing a villain that is that intense,
Mm.
I'm like, both of these characters need to have a level of, they need to be centered, and they need to have very strong personalities or the capability to get to that level.
Mm.
And Regina is one of those characters where she's like a sleeper cell agent.
Mm.
Like both she and Leo are the kind of people who they're used to, it is their safety to stay hidden. That
Yeah.
is that is what they do, but it doesn't mean, and to be overlooked. That is important to them. It's how they survive. And for Regina, it's as a woman, her ability to be seen as, safe, her ability to move through and manipulate situations. She knows that it lies in her ability to allow people put on her, or like at least reflect on her whatever it is they need to believe. They don't need to know the truth. Leo is, I mean, he's a private investigator, so he doesn't want people to be seeing his ass at all.
At
But
all.
at all. But at the same time, but what it's hiding is these two people where it's like you scratch that surface enough.
Mm.
And they're like, if you want to start something, we can finish it. Like, I mean, we were trying to stay in the corner, but if you want to have a fight, let's fight, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like when you get so, and like I feel like when you're dealing with those two, when you have those two kinds of personalities and they fall in love
Mm.
and the sparks start flying, it's like, who is this idiot in the corner? Why is he over here? Like we were like, you know.
But
It's
how
a,
you describe all three books from the questions that I asked, that's where I layered it in as multicultural.
mhm.
Because it was just so many dynamics and cultural relevancies in the books that does not sit in an interracial box. So, and a lot of people, like I said, don't know the difference between interracial and multicultural.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you're traditionally published, or you're
Mhm.
hybrid.
I am so far I am traditionally published, but
How
Dragon Blade is a little more of a. It's a smaller company.
how does that perspective shape your understanding of the historical romance where it's headed nowadays? Like, how does being in that space help you understand the road that needs to be paved more for historical romance for Black authors?
I mean, Dragon Blade and Entangled are they're kind of they operate very differently. They like for example, Entangled. I think because Entangled is they're a little broader in their scope in the sense of they deal with all romance genre. They don't just deal with the subgenre of historical romance.
Mm-hmm.
So and and because of that, they tend to be more their structure is way more traditional than
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Blade. So the way they release books is more traditional. The books that they center are ends up more in line with following industry trends rather than just doing their own thing, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think Entangled, their focus is more on like being like woman centered, which is not all publishing houses. So that is what sets Entangled apart. They're not
Mm-hmm.
overly focused, even though they're not necessarily overtly anti-race, because they absolutely are pulling these authors in and they're absolutely publishing their books. They're not pushing them, but they're not publishing them. But they are publishing them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not centering them, but they are publishing them, which
Mm-hmm.
is weirdly a step above other publishing houses. They're not
That's
even publishing.
crazy.
Yeah, so it's like the bar's in hell. So being able to be above the bar or like it's not hard, but it doesn't necessarily give all of it. It doesn't mean that as a writer that your story is still gonna not receive the same level of exposure
Mm-hmm.
as somebody who is not only white but writing to what is popular at the time. And what is popular right now is romantasy. And
Mm-hmm.
there's no shade on it. Like romantasy is what it's selling. Everybody wants Game of Thrones, but they want Game of Thrones with attractive people fucking is what they
Yeah,
want,
pretty
right?
much.
And more of it, right? So everybody felt gypped watching Game of Thrones. They were like, "Why didn't I see Jon Snow's ass more often?" I took it personally, and so they're just like, "We're gonna write," you know, like, and why can't Jon Snow secretly be a dragon? Like, let's have it. Like, why can't Khal Drogo be a dragon? Let's do it, right? Like, so this is the kind of thing that, like, I guess Jon Snow would be more of like a werewolf shifter, but
Mm-hmm.
like you like that is the kind of thing that people want, and you've seen it a lot of times. I think it's TV leading the trends
Mm,
because the books that they're adapting, these are not new books.
mm,
These are old books. These are books from like the 80s. These are books from like early to mid 90s, right?
yeah.
But it's a lot of witches. It's a lot of vampires. It's a lot of that kind of thing. And so people want that, but they also want poofy dresses, right?
Mm,
So you end up with romantasy, and which is being pushed a lot because a lot of the really good TV that, if you think about the really good TV that you've seen, a lot of it kind of leans romantasy a lot. Like especially when you're talking about like anything that's in a period piece, a lot of it's romantasy. You're talking about Carnival Row. You're talking about like
oh, I love Carnival Row.
Carnival Row is so good, right? You're talking about like Carnival Row. You're thinking like his Dark Materials. You're talking about
Oh.
like, right? All of these shows are fantasy slash paranormal slash
Romantic.
something, right?
Yeah,
Carnival Row fits.
steampunkish.
Yeah, like Carnival Row is perfectly fit within like it's in a romantasy vibe, right? You had that like fucking Puck marrying that girl. I cannot remember the names, but yeah, but like that, right? You literally have interracial like beast like romance kind of thing going. Like it was perfectly set up there,
Mm.
you know.
So, question: what advice would you give aspiring authors who want to dive into historical Regency romance fiction, but feel intimidated by research or uh, representation?
Mm. Representation, like you representing like
Writing
multicultural
people of
America.
color or writing, things of that nature, but not wanting to fall into the trap of the Eurocentric type, Regency type deal. Because
Yeah,
I'm going to be honest with you, the Eurocentric Regency, I got tired of it because I got tired of not seeing us.
yeah.
So,
Like also like boring
yeah,
because you're not
right.
like not in a bad like not like I was like not in a bad way because again like that is where I got started, right? Like that's where I got started
It
reading.
didn't have the
However,
soul in it. It didn't
it
have the
don't
soul in it.
because it's in and the problem is I think yeah, I mean, okay, so anyway, to your question, ADHD
Yeah.
is the devil. Okay, so to your question, keep me on track here. I think that the first thing you need to be is you need to be brutally honest with yourself about what your goals are as a writer,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because falling into the Eurocentric Regency trap is only a trap if you didn't want to end up there.
Yeah.
And
Well.
to be fair to a lot of authors of color, like you the reality of the situation is that your books are probably going to you can get picked up as you're an author of color so that so that you are just because you're good for the diversity look of a company. But if you're not writing diversely, it also makes it more likely that they're going to push you.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. And if you're trying to start off traditionally, and it's also important to understand that like the trap is really here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what I mean by that is the reality of publishing, the reality of being a writer now is not what it was back in the early 2000s. Let's be real about this. Even
Mm-hmm.
2010, like things have shifted wildly. And
Yeah.
this is something that the publishing industry, particularly when it comes to traditional publishing and romance and historical romance, they have not caught up with that shit at
I
all.
was just about to say that they are not there
They're
yet.
scrambling. They are scrambling. So, and the reality, and it's because of, even though we hate him and he is the dark overlord, the reality of the situation is you have giants like Amazon that
Mm-hmm.
are pushing self-publishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reality of the situation is when I got started writing, when I was my first thing, which did not go far. Nobody's gonna read it. Um, Amazon was not even offering you print books. It would have to be
Mm.
digital only. Cut to now. When I was querying for One Season with the Duke, I
Mm.
was able to be a lot more discerning with the publishing houses that I was reaching out to, because a lot of them require you to have an agent, which is
Wow.
just putting more, and you're just like, oh fuck, like I don't have an agent, and like you gotta query an agent so that the agent will query, and you're just like, I can't. And that's the majority of publishing houses. They do not take unrepresented manuscripts. So first I had to like filter it down to the few people who would even look at me, my little my unagented self, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to find the ones that are willing to freaking market you, or at least lie to you and say that they're willing to market you, right? Because at this point in time, they're lying, right? But like, are you gonna lie to me a little bit to like get my stuff? And then you find those, and then because there are a lot of them that will look at you and be like, "What's your marketing plan?" And it's like, "Bitch, what's your marketing plan? Like, you're
Mm.
the company with the marketing department. Like, what are you saying?" And the reality of the situation is, if you don't want to if that's what you're dealing with companies that don't want to, that you have to have an agent. They're putting all these hurdles in there. The reality of the situation is, you can easily just go to Amazon and self-publish your shit. You can have print copies if you want. You can have digital copies with if you want. And if you sell enough, you can make enough money to create your own audiobooks. And even that is getting a lot easier and more affordable for people to do as well. So you have narrators, you can connect with them, you can do all your thing. The real so if you want to start off and get your name out there, and you want to use traditional publishing to do that, to get you started, because they will cover the costs of your editor, they will give you your book art, and that shit is expensive. If you want to start off there, you can. And write your little Eurocentric nonsense just to get your name out there. You can do that. However, at some point, because again, Bridgerton is real, the Bridgerton phenomenon is real, at some point, somebody gonna ask you, are you ever gonna write like anything that's like more, like more diverse and whatever? And you're just like, okay, you just have to make them fall in love with your writing. And if
Mm.
you want to do that and then turn around and then self-publish and be a hybrid author, you can do that.
Mm.
The world is your oyster. You do not need to conform. It is at the same time a great time to be a writer, and also a scary time to be a
What you
historical writer.
selling?
It's scary as hell. But like the reality of the situation is like, you can do whatever you have the courage to do. And at this point in time, that has never been more true. If
Mm.
you want to, like, you don't have to be used. They're using you, but that doesn't mean you can't use them back,
Mm.
right? So use them. So figure out what it is you want to do. If you want to start there, and then use that to pivot and platform yourself and push yourself even further out there, yeah, use them for what little marketing shit they're gonna give you. That's fine. Use it to propel you. Or but I also have friends, like writer friends like Melvina McFarlane and Rebecca Austin, who are like, I am not dealing with that crap, period. I have no interest. And Cecilia Renee is another one. She's like, no, I don't want to compromise at all. I want to write what I want to write, and I don't want to deal with that kind of drama, period. I don't want anybody else telling me what to do, right?
That
That's
part.
also perfectly valid, and you can totally do that. And at that point, you're like, okay, so now you have to sit down and be like, okay, so I'm not going to be getting the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be getting whatever, even though it's like the bare bones of financial investment, you're not getting it. You are starting at whatever the hell you have in your bank account, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is a struggle you have to pick up. That is a struggle you are just gonna have to like, okay, pick. Like my sister always says, pick a struggle. There's a struggle, but also you have the right. It's just like a job interview, right? Like you have the right to interview your publisher. Look at them, see what you're doing. If you're testing it out, I would say don't lead with a series. You may have a series in your head. You may have like a plan. I am a planner. So I always have a series in my head. But if you're testing out publishers and you want to see, can I pick up what you're putting down? Give them one book. If they do novellas, give them a novella. See how it works. See, pay attention to what they say and how you see them moving. Test it out. Interview them. The problem with a lot of publishers is like it's very difficult to know until you're there. And like, the trap has already been sprung. So you're like, okay, what can I do? Can I pivot? Can I do something with this? And so I think with writers, if you want to, you have to figure out what it is that you're willing to compromise on, and what it is that you're not, because you are compromising on something.
Yeah.
There is nothing that there's no free lunch in this world, right? So if you're not compromising on the fact that you are going to have to do it all on your own, and that is a steeper climb, that's just the reality of it, that's fine. But write your heart song, because nobody's going to tell you no, right? And there's always going to be a reader out there that wants to read what you have to give. And I think also, I think the other thing to think about is like, but so that's one thing. But at the flip side, if you do not want to deal with that and you're like, I do need help, like I'm delicate, please, like somebody give me a leg up. Like you can but you can do traditional as much as you want or as little as you want. The reality of the situation is it's your journey and you can shape it however the hell you want based on your needs and your capital at the time. The only thing I will say is, so beyond, know what the hell it is you want and know what it is you're capable of and what your limits are. But at the same time, always keep your ear to the ground. Always pay attention to, because it makes it easier. It makes it easier for you to get books picked up. It makes it easier for you to go further. If you know who your audience is and what they want.
Yeah.
What do they want to read? That means you're going to be paying attention to industry trends.
Okay.
Either way, you have to pay attention to it. If you want to be a full-on rebel like me and ignore everything, because as I am traditionally published, there ain't no trend telling anybody that historical romance is the way to go. But I am that kind of stubborn individual, like my parents before me, that is me, where I'm just like, I don't want you telling me what to do. And what I want to write is historical romance. And if you can find a company like Dragon Blade that is like, we literally got you because you write interracial romance, and that's what we want you writing. We want you pushing more of that. And all we do is historical romance. Then you don't, it's less to fight. It's less to do all those things. So like, do your research, find the publishing house that works with you. Find the publishing house that will, and you just have to do your networking, take it slow, do your thing. But the idea that you have to be beholden to one path, or that you are beholden to literally anybody but yourself, is honest to God nonsense. It's the kind of thing that will trap you in your head and make you think that you have more limitations than you do. You don't. You can literally do what the hell you want.
So where can readers like get your books, and what's the best way to follow you online?
So,
right now, you have any of your book. I don't know which shelf your book is on, but do you have any of your books? I just want to show them that cover.
Okay, so yes. So I have Miss Hattie, my one season with the Duke that I got from Entangled. I will say they did me a solid with this cover.
That's a beautiful cover.
It is a beautiful cover. Okay. It's some solid shit. And when you get a good cover for your book, honest to God, the cover sells the book sometimes. You will find there's so many people who would just be like, I like purple, so I'll buy your book. And you're like, sure. Like, why not? Like, give me your money. Take the book. Like, you know. So then I have Miss Thornfield's Daring Bargain right here with my delightful Ada. And so my favorite thing about like these books is that like the detail that I gave Dragon Blade, I give them the same amount of detail because I have like low-key like OCD when it comes to like having things my way because I'm a Virgo. Um, I gave them the same one with One Season Mini Duke, but they got the girl right, and I was like, okay, they got the vibe. I like this. So Dragon Blade, however, I told them I wanted to have like little things like that were important, like culturally, like things that gave like vibes about like if she could see herself in like animals and like nature around her, like what would it look like? So I gave them that. And do you see like these like beautiful like lotus flowers?
Mm.
There's like a crane somewhere, like where is it? They got all kinds of stuff on this book. And I just think it's so pretty. There's like more stuff like back there.
I have to get that one.
It's so
I had to get that one and the other one.
I thought you got this one.
I don't know. You know what? Me
You got
fighting
this
for
one.
I did.
Yeah. I had this at
Cause
I
you
had
know
this
I
at
bought
Boozy
your
Book
books
Tour.
on KU. I like on Kindle.
You got this on Boozy Book Tour. You got this, you got both of them.
I just don't have the third one.
No. You don't have so the second one, so this one, Miss Mason, you would have got to got on Kindle because I didn't this wasn't out yet when I went to Boozy.
That's the one I need. That's the one. Okay.
This is the one you have. And then the third one of the trilogy comes out next month. So that comes out September 19th. And it is going to deal with Ellie and Richard.
Ooh.
I
Oh.
can hit you with another one. Yeah. So
Oh. Okay. Yeah.
so that's book 3 because she's been pining enough. She deserves to get what she wants now. But anyway, this is Mrs. Mason, and she is a stunner. I love her
That
so much.
color.
She's so pretty.
She
I like
is.
her earrings and like all that good stuff. Like
So where can they buy purchase these books? Like
so
physical
they
books?
can get so if you are in so on the I'm so available on Kindle Unlimited. Um Dragon Blade is sort of exclusively through Amazon. They
Mm-hmm.
do have I am listed on like barnesandnobles.com as well. But so all 3 of these you can get them. You can get the paperback or the am I lying? You can get all of them on either Barnes and Nobles or Kindle. On Kindle, I know you can get for the first 2 very like on actually for all of them you can get them paperback, audiobooks, Kindle Unlimited, all of that's there. The third one
Okay.
will also be on Amazon. I do have book signings and stuff where you can also purchase books and I can sign them and stuff. There's one there's one coming up in Florida. It's next month in September. It's called Fanboy Expo. I'm gonna be there. There's one in there's Steamy LitCon, which is fantastic, which is in California. I'll be there this year as well.
Mm-hmm.
Signing all of my books. So I will have the third one in paperback as well. So if y'all are in the California area, Anaheim, any of that stuff, come to Steamy Lit. I will sign your shit. But it also is a convention that like centers BIPOC authors
Mm-hmm.
and like BIPOC everybody, BIPOC influencers, artists, narrators, all that stuff. Like it is for those people. So you will find a lot of like I think most of the people that I know who are like authors at Steamy LitCon, like all of them are black. So it's fun.
Yeah.
And then I will be at Buns and Roses, which is in Dallas, Texas. So if anybody's in the Dallas, Texas area, you can still buy those tickets.
You busy.
I'm tired. But so I'm all over like I really am like all over the place because I have to. Like it's the reality is like marketing isn't what like it is like anywhere, no matter what publishing house you're in. So you really do have to get out there and do that legwork
Yeah.
yourself. And Mama's trying to retire, so Mama's trying to have one job.
Yeah.
Right now, I currently have 2. I would like to have one, And in order to do that, I need y'all to know where I am so that I can, and I to sell you with my bubbly personality and get y'all to be stalking me and my books and buying all my stuff is what I need to be doing. So that's what I'm doing. But yeah, Buns and Roses is it's a fantastic it's a very small convention, and it promotes literacy for adults,
Mm,
and it offers immigration assistance
mm,
for people who are starting a new life. And I, as an immigrant and a creative writing major, I was like, I kind of care about English, and I care about immigration services. Pretty much my entire family is immigrants, and we were
mm.
lucky that we didn't have a language barrier, like too much of a language barrier, because we already spoke English.
Yeah.
But it is important. So reading and immigration stuff. So if you want to support that kind of thing, Buns and Roses in October. And if you go to my website, you can see a list of like the dates and all that good stuff on my website.
What's the
And
website? Is it in your bio?
yeah, it's Addy Dulac author.net. Um, you can always stalk me, and I'll send it to you. You can always just like DM me. Nobody DMs me, so it's not going to be difficult for me to keep up with it. Um, so, like, just message me. I'll give you my link. But yeah, it's on my Facebook page. It's on my Facebook page. It's on my Instagram page. It's very difficult to link like stuff on TikTok, which is very annoying. But if you stalk me on Instagram and you stalk me on Facebook, you will get the link to my website.
Okay. So I'm gonna do your outro, and then I'm gonna say some information, and then we're gonna get out of here.
Okie dokie.
Um, Addie reminds us that love stories are universal and timeless, and by placing multicultural characters at the center of Regency romance, she reclaims a space often denied to us in history and literature. Her books are proof that sensuality, elegance, and cultural depth can exist hand in hand. Make sure you grab her novels. So that means go buy the fucking books, y'all. Follow her online. Support this important voice in historical romance because it is fucking needed. And as I always say, stay loved, stay loud, and stay black on motherfucking purpose.